Hello everyone, I'm Rudrani and welcome to Speak Easy. This is a very special edition of Zoom Speak Easy. It's 2022. It's actually the end of 2022. Today my panel is all about celebrating films that truly made the mark in 2022. My panel of course has some very talented guests. I'll go and introduce them straight away. I have of course Huma Qureshi, Adivi Sesh, and of course Mr. Anil Kapoor. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for being on time.
I was just going to say, joining in and being on time.
All of you all have been part of films that the audience has really loved and they have been celebrated. What is that one film that you thought in 2022 that you really loved as an actor? I'll start with Mr. Anil Kapoor.
See, I to be honest with you, something which comes really quickly to my mind is Ted Lasso. It's not a film, it's a show.
Series?
It's a show on Apple, which I really loved.
Yes.
I really loved that show. So that comes to mind. And then, of course, what I do is when I'm doing certain films, I watch all the films around those films. So when I was doing Thar, so I was watching all the films, all the westerns. So I think saw all the westerns, the best westerns made in the last 100 years. Then, of course, there are other two films I'm doing, which is Fighter and Animal.
Correct.
And so उसके लिए भी जितनी भी उनके आसपास जितनी भी फिल्में हैं, for my reference, for just to have fun, so I keep on watching those films. So a lot of time is, and then someone recommends,
Correct.
यार ये film देखो बहुत ज़बरदस्त film है. Otherwise, I have to be honest with you, I feel very bad. My consumption of content has become a little lesser because there's so much to do besides when I started my career or before I started my career or during the initial stages of my career, my consumption was quite a bit.
Correct.
Because responsibility was much more lesser.
If impressed you?
I saw RRR and I really found it very entertaining, and I saw it in the theatre. Really was a good film, a lot of fun, and I spoke to everybody. I tweeted about it also.
Correct.
And without anybody asking me to tweet about it.
That is always
That's
important.
always important.
So दिल से होता है.
Yeah.
दिल से.
So I saw that film. I really enjoyed. Then what else? This is what comes to. I think among the film national films, I think these are the films which I really liked. Yeah.
Fantastic. What about you?
मतलब पेड वाले ट्वीट तो रिमोट पकड़ के खड़े होते हैं ना.
But you also, but Sesh, you also wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Not too many, is it?
You know what's happened is, I think it's a digital issue. जब choices बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ जाती हैं on streaming or in theaters, we don't watch anything. एक funk में चले जाते हैं.
Correct.
But for me, this year was by far Kantara and RRR. Not because they're the popular choice. I remember watching Kantara in Kannada. I don't speak Kannada very well, but I was watching it and it didn't have subtitles. So I'm watching it, and then the madness of the last half an hour started. And it broke every convention that we define कि यार second half में थोड़ा drop है, climax में थोड़ा raise होता है, ये हीरोगिरी ये है, या ये वो है. Every piece of grammar I had about film, about Indian cinema, it broke. And it'll inspire 3 or 4 more Kantaras that then we'll start saying, अच्छा इसमें ये second half dip है first half. But you can't even say those things for Kantara because it is so strikingly original.
Correct.
And it reminded me of my village and things I saw as a kid. And RRR, for reasons I think, of course what Anil sir said, but also because I think Rajmouli sir did something that a lot of people don't realize. She's taken Allur Sita Ramaraju, the legendary Telugu freedom fighter, and Komaram Bhim, the legendary Telangana freedom fighter, and named both these characters after them. And because they happen to live in the same era, he's saying, what if there was a fictional friendship between them? But then he's associating Sita Ramaraju with Lord Ram, so people in Hindi will associate.
Correct.
Yeah.
So there is like So the guy in the Telugu stratosphere is going Allur Sitaramala. He's going Komuram.
Yes.
The guy in the Hindi stratosphere is going Lord Ram.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lord Ram and Hanuman.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that idea to take such a simple idea about freedom fighting and making it associate into our history.
Mythology.
Both sort of people we pray to, or the gods we pray to, and people we worship as freedom fighters, and weave it in one story. That's ingenious. You know, I just thought that was really great.
Absolutely. What about you, Huma?
Well, I'll have to add both the films actually. I have thoroughly enjoyed RRR, I have thoroughly enjoyed Kantara, and for similar and dissimilar reasons. I mean, Kantara, of course, because I feel like it talks about those heroes and you know, it puts them on a pedestal. Those stories that we actually don't talk about but are all around us.
Correct.
You know, you have to literally travel a little outside your cities and talk to people, because these are local traditions that we don't make films about, you know, or we don't talk about. And I felt like here was a story of a hero and a transition, you know, which talks about the environment. It talks about some very complex issues. Ki land kiska hota hai?
Bilkul.
Land belongs to whom? The people who live over there, the landowner, the government, Sarkar, who, and such a complex issue, but told in such a simple way. And both RRR and I think Kantara for me, like, you know, score is the fact that they use our local traditions so beautifully with such a cinematic brilliance, literally. I want to add two more films to this that I have personally loved. One has been Gangubai.
Of course.
Which one?
It's Gangubai.
Gangubai,
which I
yes.
absolutely
Even I loved Gangubai.
I loved
I loved
that
Gangubai,
film.
yes.
And
Sorry,
Drishyam,
I forgot about it, yeah.
the latest Drishyam. I remember I was filming in Lucknow and I went and saw it on the Monday or Tuesday. And it was so lovely to see a film just like people standing and whistling and clapping and enjoying the second half especially, and just the slow burn, right? Like you invest in the first half and then the payoff in the second. And Gangubai, of course, Sanjay sir is a genius. My top 4.
Drishyam was it's a very schizophrenic experience for me, because I saw the Malayalam Drishyam too,
Yeah, and
I
then
saw the Telugu Drishyam too, and I saw the Hindi Drishyam too. So I was like,
When you do that,
you're comparing.
Which one is your favorite?
exactly what I said. Will you compare it?
Yeah, has to be. Has to
I
be.
love Ajay Devgan as an actor. I've grown up on his cinema,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Mohanlal, hands down. Yeah.
That both, you know, Huma and Anil's characters, Huma in Monica, My Darling, and of course yours in Jug Jug Jio, are characters that cannot be defined by good and bad. They're just great, right? Achai hai, burai hai. There was a time when it used to be very controversial to play such characters because actors would want to stick by playing only good ones and be really, truly loved. The acceptance of both these characters, I would like your viewpoints on this, has also proved that the audience truly now is just looking at interesting characters, and that is an exciting time. I would like your comments from both. Huma?
I think audiences have always been ready for exciting and interesting characters. Like, and again, I know because he started this discussion about like going back to Indian mythology. Like for me, the most interesting character in the Mahabharata is Karna, and I feel like for me, Monica is just a hero like anybody else, and she wants the best for herself, like any other guy. She's a hustler. She's James Bond in a red dress, like I keep saying. Like, you know, like if James Bond is going around seducing women to get what he wants, she's doing the same thing. You know, with a license to kill.
Did you have vodka martini?
So, no, but it was stirred, not shaken.
What is that?
So yeah, and I think sometimes we maybe like think that our audiences, like we want to dumb down content for them, but actually, ye shuru se people. I mean, if you go back to our films, also like Gurudutt Saab has been making like really like when I saw Pyasa for the first time, I was like, what? Like what happened in the middle? Like why did we try and think that audiences had become dumber, and we were dumbing down films to and spoon feeding them. People love complex subjects, so we have to just, I don't know, just enjoy this as viewers, as actors, and not be afraid to take you know, those chances.
You know, I know you said that, but I just want to say that while I love Pyasa, it never got its due at that time. It only was.
But even today, that's the film we remember, and there's so many films.
Correct,
so
but
much
उस time पे तो नहीं. हाँ, लेकिन the time that he really wanted to make it, I don't think it got its due, right?
But there's a lesson over there, right? There's a lesson over there.
Lesson over there, 100%.
Lesson over there.
Like,
and history keeps repeating if you don't learn those lessons.
100%, 100%. Of course. Anilji, please.
It all depends on the writers and filmmakers, what they offer you. So you should be ready for everything. And I am ready to accept everything. If it is complex, if the director and filmmaker feels that I can pull it off, and if I like if I like the script and if all the tick boxes are ticked, and for me to say yes to that, journey to happen, then I say yes. And there are times when it becomes more difficult to play a very, very straight, good man. Very tricky. And because you know that somewhere the trade, the audience, and sometimes even the critics will not look at you very favorably when they go and watch your films. But you go with your gut and you do that film. Like, for example, I did A Good Man in Wo Saat Din. I played a very, very straight, simple man in Ishwar. I did Mr. India, I did Beta, I did Judai.
Correct.
And there are times...
Good.
But
Yeah, he was a good one.
Yeah. So what happens is sometimes there are times when someone else does the other character, and there are times when that other character gets more recognition and is written about more, because that becomes little more, attractive in terms of even in performing it, and even when the person is reviewing the film also, he somewhere finds it much more interesting and exciting. But sometimes to play a very good man is much more difficult.
You think so?
Yeah, it's much more difficult because there is so much of कि यार ये लोग ये नहीं समझे कि यार boring आदमी है ये.
One dimensional.
One dimensional. Is he weak? They might be thinking, why is he playing he's a hero, so why is he playing this guy who's weak? But actually he's not weak. He's just a good man. He's a selfless person.
Correct.
It's a marathon. So sometimes you should not miss out on a good filmmaker and a good script and a good co-star, where the co-star sometimes has a better role. And to certain extent, sometimes there's a filmmaker who wants you for that film, and because you feel that this role might not be, will not get that kind of appreciation, then you miss out on working on the filmmaker. So I've been very, far-sighted to a certain extent in thinking, आज नहीं तो कल लोग मुझे इस रोल में पसंद करेंगे, and somewhere I feel these are the roles which will stay forever and ever in the hearts of the people. And if you see all the big stars all over the world, they have become major, very, very big stars and remain very, very big stars playing these kind of characters. And then, of course, it's exciting to play a bad guy. It's exciting to play, I'm like, for example, my next show I'm playing, the description of the character that he's the worst man in the world.
Love that.
I was like,
he's the worst man in the world.
Wow.
And I have never met a worst man, but I met good people. The worst man in the world, how do I know? Who's the worst man? I don't connect with him. I don't meet him in real life.
Correct.
Who's a arms supplier, or you read about it. See, otherwise I would have, like, even Slumdog Millionaire was a great character.
Yeah.
तो उनको समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि यार ये अच्छा आदमी है या बुरा आदमी है. बाद में पता चलता है ये बुरा आदमी है.
बिल्कुल.
And people said, they just hate, internationally. I said, who's this bad guy? I said, we hate you. I said, why did you do that to that boy? I said, that's my role, that's my character. So that becomes your,
And he was like, thank you.
I've done it.
So
I've done what I would like to.
When I heard the script of Jubilee Review, obviously, somewhere I just felt little, when I was hearing it, thoda tha. So, as an actor also, then how you play it,
Yeah.
and how you interpret it also, and add that little things, little layers to it to make it a little more, in spite of being grey and bad,
Correct.
you make it that people don't start
Hating.
they should
Pura
not
human.
feel
Repulsed.
repulsed. There are times when you do something and you go to that extent, you don't know how to. The filmmaker is not there to guide you.
Correct.
But sometimes if he is not there, then you should be sensible enough to guide yourself in such a way that it should not be repulsive. It should be, people should be able to connect with it, and because you have to have some empathy with that person also
Correct.
when you perform that role. So that's what I try to do, And when I see
But
it,
that's
when
your personal charm also, sir.
Sorry?
वो तो आपका personal charm भी है. वो तो आप कोई भी character play करोगे वो आ जाएगा.
personal charm hai, but there is a lot of thought which goes. It cannot just come
Yeah.
with a personal charm. You know, you have to have a backstory. You have to think about it. You have to work towards it. You have to rehearse. You have to prep for it. You have to go through a lot of research, references. You know, I say, ऐसा क्यों है यार? साला ये brilliant actor है, ज़बरदस्त actor है. But why is the reason he's not been able to connect with the people yet? You know?
Correct.
So then there is a certain blessing of the Almighty, and I don't know what it is. It's the characters. Sometimes you're very lucky to get those characters, and the characters go into the hearts of the people, and you feel, and people sometimes the actors misunderstand. नहीं वो मेरे को पसंद कर रहे हैं. Actually वो तेरे को इतना पसंद नहीं कर रहे जितना वो characters को पसंद कर रहे हैं. Then they start repeating the same thing again and again.
This happens to a lot of actors.
So that's one of the reasons that they feel people get bored.
Absolutely.
So it's because it's the characters which the writer and the director, and you're fortunate they've written it so beautifully.
Yeah.
That you go and perform and they become lovable.
It's very right time probably to get in the question for Major. Now, when you're playing a biopic, and I remember when we had spoken about this before as well, when you're playing a biopic, you obviously have to tread that territory very carefully because it's also a homage to the person in particular, in your case, and it was such a great man, right? Yet, in your story, besides the heroics, which is all there, great action, everything, you did take the portion which sort of might seem a little dicey when it comes to his relationship with his wife to make him more human. I feel like why was that important for you? We're talking about not playing straight good man.
I think in fact, सच बोला जाए तो उनके जो personal life है, there's a bit more darkness in real life than there was in the film. और हमने थोड़ा बहुत cut कर दिया था वो in an effort to protect identities of certain people.
Correct.
And also sort of see when a national hero sort of gives his life for the country, so if anybody does wrong to him in his life story, that person by the audience becomes instantly revived. तो हमारे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी था कि हम वो soften करें, पर फिर भी कहीं ना कहीं we find some speck of truth. You know, it's interesting Huma said Karna because I always felt Sandeep Unnikrishnan sir is Karna.
Really?
Even in
Yeah,
our
you
interview,
had
I said he's
Karna.
Surya Putra. You know, he walked around with the glow of the sun. He's excellent at what he did. Fantastic warrior, and extremely flawed on certain things.
Yeah.
That's what makes anybody human, right?
Yeah. So I just thought that he shared a lot of similarities with Karna, and I think that sort of, I wouldn't say fatalistic, but that almost serendipitous, I'm gonna go, is something he had about him as well. I remember him saying to Amma, Dhanlakshmi Amma,
Correct.
that Amma, you know, I think I should have kids soon because I'm going to go and then you're going to have to take care of them. So he would say things like that, and not because he wished it, because he was very high on life and he loved life. But he had that sort of serendipitous tryst with destiny kind of angle to his life, and he often said things like that to his parents, to his friends, to his serving officers. So we made sure that we found some speck of truth in each of those things, and we brought it in. As far as the personal life was concerned, we definitely sort of really were careful about making sure audiences didn't hate
The person, to make him a villain out of the other people.
Yeah, because if that happens, then we lose the essence of the film. Now, in making a sort of semi-hagiography, semi-homage,
Correct.
we also have to go with the idea of, okay, this is popular cinema. I'm not interested in making this film for a streaming service. This is a big screen, theatrical, big budget South Indian film that's being made in Hindi in Hyderabad.
Correct.
So, you know, it was very important for us that we say, okay, it's not Kanjivaram, it's not Kukatpalli, it's not Kakinada, it has to be Kashmir, it has to be Kanyakumari, it has to be Kansas.
Yeah.
So we did stretch the heroics of the situation a bit, I'll be honest with that.
Sure, of course.
But we never tried to go to the point that we're forgetting who we're making the film about.
Congratulations for Hit 2 also. You I wouldn't say single-handedly, of course a lot of people were involved in it, but Mahesh Babu also of course championed for the film. But you did sort of do every bit necessary to make this work. And at that time it was very important for you for the film to work in the theatres as well. I remember seeing you said, and you were really closely watching every single day ki kya opening hone wali hai.
Yeah.
Does this frightening in a way to not being able to sort of to put your focus there, saying कि मैंने film बना दी है, and then there are actors who sort of say I've done my best, I move on. But I know with this film, I could see even that day you were at it. You were like, I'm invested so much, I have to make this work. Is that not scary?
He was saying that Vicky Kaushal was saying that once he's done, he's done.
Correct, exactly.
He loves the process and the journey, but he's not connected to the result. You know, my Twitter bio says anxious extraordinaire. So I am that guy, but I'm not obsessed.
So what did you do exactly? I don't know. I'm not aware of it. What did you do for Major?
So what we did was, you know, we knew that my base in Telugu would watch it, but why does a guy in Kanpur have to watch it? You know, it's also the name is Sandeep Unikrishnan. What makes him want to go? It's not Vikram Batra, for example. So we did 20 screenings. We teamed up with Book My Show, and we actually had allowed people to book tickets online 2 weeks before the release of the film.
Yeah.
So you're fighting anything from bad reviews to piracy.
Yeah, they did that.
You're putting it out 2 weeks before.
2 weeks where?
Throughout the country, one show here, one show there. It's almost like a tour, like a rock band. So the entire film team would, you know, put the show on Book My Show. It gets sold out within minutes. And people would come, and we would have secret cameras recording their reactions, and nothing was curated. If people were going to hate it, they were going to hate it. If people were going to love it, they were going to love it. So we took those reactions.
People bought the tickets.
Yeah, and we did free screenings, and we did a few screenings where they were paid. When we got those,
Where did you do the screenings which were paid?
Telugu theatres, more in South India.
More in South India, yeah.
So once we got those reactions, those became the trailer of the film. It wasn't the trailer that went as well. It wasn't the songs that went as well. It was the reactions of people and what they were genuinely saying that sort of changed the, you know. And
Actually, that's what you see internationally. What they do is exactly the same thing.
Test
So
screens.
they, sorry.
Test screens.
There's not screens, but they put, you know, there are certain films which the distributors which are very big in this is Fox Searchlight, and there is Sony Classic. So that's what they do. And there are certain films they, you know, like they release only in cities like New York. They'll have only 2-3 screens, and some 1 or 2 screens here and there, and then they keep on adding screens, and then the actors go to the screen and all. And that there is a science to that also, which people sometimes don't understand. But you have to risk it, you know.
it's a huge.
And then you have the festivals. So why people go to the festivals with these kind of films is the reason they go to the festivals is because it gets a certain kind of exposure, certain kind of mileage, certain kind of publicity. If the film is good, then they put it when they have those reviews from the festivals. And they do the red carpet and the actors and the films, and if it wins an award, terrific, absolutely. So then it, you know, becomes, if you have to hit it worldwide. So that is the reason sometimes for certain films, the festival circuit is a very important circuit for the people to recognize and for the film to be known, because marketing is such an expensive tool that every film cannot afford to do that kind of marketing. That kind of money cannot be spent.
I think our challenge also became that, you know, we weren't like an art house film. If you are an art house film, you can actually go to the festival.
You know, but there are certain films which are to certain festivals, which, like Toronto Film Festival is not a art house.
Festival.
You know, there are so many other festivals
Yeah,
which.
they had Mission Impossible. One of the Mission Impossible.
Yes, in Toronto. In Cannes. Cannes.
Can also.
Cannes also.
You see what happens sometimes.
It was quite cool actually.
Yeah, sometimes what happens is, it was Top Gun, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes so happens that the filmmaker itself becomes the darling of the festivals. And there are certain films which just, you know, they just fly. The films, you know, they just fly. You don't know where it's going to fly, and then, you know, you always dream and you always want and you always wish you should be attached to that kind of film which flies.
So some of our South Indian films, they get dubbed into Hindi with lots of cheesy titles.
Correct, yeah.
We took great care in picking the title Gudachari, which was one of my films. It means spy, but it's a very ancient way of saying it. So it got dubbed into Hindi as Intelligent Khiladi.
Yeah, I know.
This was before Major.
Before. So
Intelligent Khiladi.
it was interesting to meet people in places like Hoshiarpur where they're like, Intelligent Khiladi ki nayi film aayi hai.
आप कौन है? Intelligent खिलाड़ी.
मेरा उल्टा था. When I started my career, so I was doing Mani Ratnam's film, his first film,
Pallavi Anupalli.
Pallavi Anupalli. So my little conflict happened, and I said, when I signed the contract, I said my film will not be dubbed in Hindi. I said no matter what happens, it's not going to be dubbed in Hindi. So it's in my contract. So they were upset because I feel this film, I don't want it to be in Hindi. My Hindi film, I wanted something else to be. तो पागल था मैं शायद या तो overconfident था कि nobody knew me in Hindi at that time. I had no work, but I said no. One day I'll become a star in Hindi.
Wow.
So I have in my
So हमारे साथ तेलुगु films भी कीजिएगा.
My first film was a Telugu film.
Yeah.
So
We
when
think of you as a
Telugu. So what happened is
Hey, don't take him away from us also. now.
So I did the Telugu film, and because of that Telugu film I got the Kannada film. But because Telugu film was dubbed, so I said ये Kannada तो मैं dub होने नहीं दूँगा.
I'm going to start a hashtag. Anil Kapoor हमारा है.
That is true. You can.
How dare you?
Not happening.
Not
Anil Kapoor
happening.
हमारा है.
Yeah.
हम सबका है Anil Kapoor. But you know, on that note,
That's very Indian, Rutra.
of
Of course, it's a joke, Ray.
I know he knows that. He started it.
He started. Badmash he is.
I'm clickbaiting Huma for
I
that.
know.
I'm not going to fall into that trap.
You use
I
the
do.
hashtag.
These are we are
I'm a
all very
pan-India
sensitive not to
actress.
get into.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Not at
I
all.
know.
मैं
Absolutely.
thumbnail information दे रहा था.
Of course. Of course.
Huma Qureshi says.
Have you seen my film Wale Mein, by the way? Soft plug-in.
That's true. But you know, we're talking also about the heroics, and you know, you were just mentioning about the biggest superstars who, you know, sometimes become larger than the film, and then they become the darling of everything. A lot of female actors have often said that, you know, we miss the fact that we don't get like these heroic entries. Like, you know, heroes get like. Aramat Apsi had once said that मुझे रश्मि रॉकेट में ना मैंने कहा था I will come, there's a bomb blast happening behind and I want to come
And walk in
untouched. Walk in slow mo because I'm like यार मुझे करना है हमको hardly मिलते हैं ऐसी चीजें. What do you think of this? Like, do you think there should be more heroic entries, or do you think, like, have you ever thought of this? You know, you of course honorable CMG आपने play किया है. I think somewhere there is this, even in Monica, both of them have that little quality that have been always, I mean, given to a lot of male characters, that ownership of you know, that rock star feeling. I mean, you can look at her that ways, right? So on that as well.
I don't know how to answer that. See, my sensibilities, I grew up in I'm a 90s kid, so I grew up with all the 90s cinema as my popular culture references and loving them and wanting to be and hence wanting to be an actor. Like basically Shah Rukh Khan, you know, being everyone's like icon. And then I came in and then I debuted in a film called Gangs of Wasseypur, which was a film that nobody knew what was going to happen. And in that sense, it was that outlier for me, at least, as my first film, because the first time I saw that film was at the Cannes Film Festival.
That's your first movie?
My first film, 2012. And I was just like, and I watched that film.
And it was in Cannes.
And I had no idea, like,
I saw in that, I was like, who's the CEO? Okay. I didn't know it was your first film.
It was my first film.
So don't watch my first film.
I will now. I will Google and find out.
Can they watch your first film?
My first film.
Telugu film.
Both
I don't
Sadhan. Both Sadhan I've seen.
No, Vosan was not my first film.
Then?
My first film was Hamare Tumhare. I did a bit role in that, and then I did Ek Baar Kaho, which is again in Hamare Tumhare, 11 children. I was one of those kids. In Ek Baar Kaho, there were two heroes, and I was the younger hero had about 6-7 friends. I was one of the friends in Ek Baar Kaho. So I started with, you know, these bit roles, and then after that, then I did bit role in Shakti. Then I did Mehmet Satyu's Kahan Se Guzar Gaye, which was shot in Calcutta. Then I did Vamsaraksham in Telugu. Then I did Kannada film. Then in 2 Hindi films I did, one got shelved and one was released much later. And then came Wo Sadhan. So I had done my, from 77 to 82 was the patch where I was, you know,
5 years of it.
5 years to, you know, to reach to that kind of situation where I could get a film which gave me recognition. So nobody remembers the 77 to 82. They remember me from 83. You know, so I went through my. So these are my films. So
Right,
if you want to watch them,
That's what I'm saying. I want to hear your answer
Yeah.
definitely. But because you said that, and he said like, "Mere pehle film mat dekho." Are you embarrassed to film? Because I don't see that. Are you embarrassed of any film that you've done, saying, "Arey yaar, I hope like y'all don't watch it"? Is there any film like that that you've
you
done
see, the
ever?
thing is, what happens is, you know, you obviously you get embarrassed because your sensibilities have changed.
Of course.
Your you know, the way of you know, the. I said, why am I doing like this? Why am I looking like that? You know, to a certain extent. What was I thinking when I was wearing this? And you know, and I could have done this, I could have done that. And of course, there are times when you know, you're starting your career, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're trying a little more harder than what you should. You're not that effortless as you want to be. So these are the things, and obviously, you know, you come from a background where there are no actors in your family. You're the first actor in the family, you know, and you don't come from a literary background.
Yeah.
You don't come from a background which is artistic, and you know, so there is. So all these things make a lot of difference. You see, when you come from a background, that also really helps. So there are certain things. Of course, I am, but fortunately for me, I think God was kind and luck favored me that my first film people really saw was Wo Satya. These
Yeah.
films were so insignificant and that always I say becomes an advantage when you are an outsider. You know, because I was an outsider at that time, and your films come and go, people don't really judge you,
doesn't get
judge you.
scrutinized.
But when
Yeah.
it becomes more tricky for people who are known.
Yeah.
It might be a son or a brother or a sister or anybody. And then, you know, it becomes more tricky because people are judging you according to,
Yeah.
you know. So अभी तो मेरी पिक्चरें किसी को भी मालूम ही नहीं कितनी आई फिल्में कहीं फ्लॉप भी हो जाती कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. You know, you understand? Nobody really bothered.
Great
So I mean, that way the advantages were there. And I was lucky that I got this, you know, content written by, again, the South filmmaker. K. Bhagiraj, who wrote a beautiful story. As I always say,
Bhagiraj, sir,
you know, people talk about the films and the content and all. It's always been there. Since many, many years. They've always written great stories, great scripts, good films have always been made since the last 60 years. You know, there was S. Vasan, there was Gemini, there was Shivaji Ganesh, and there, you know, these great N.T. Ramarao and great filmmakers like Bapu Sahab, K. Vishwanath, K. Balchandar, who were very brilliant filmmakers. And made some terrific films, you know, and the films were dubbed. Like Ramar Sham is a dubbed film, you know, it's a film which was made in Telugu, Tamil, and then it was made here.
Ramudu is Ramosham.
Really?
Oh, really?
Ek Duje Ke Liye was, you know, was a big success in, you know, the other languages, and then it was made in Hindi. So
Ramudu Bhimudu became Ramosham, and then they made Sita or Geeta, which is like a Hindi remake of
Correct.
Ramosham.
and Kirshan Kanaya and Jalbaz.
And we remade it as Ganga Manga.
There's no original idea anyway.
So yeah, there are certain films which I'm very, you know, I said, I'm not embarrassed, but I feel I could have done better.
Okay. Fair enough.
I could have done better, or as I said, यार ये कैसे किया मैंने, ये इसके साथ क्यों किया?
Huma, going back to you.
To sort of take off from what he was saying, that, I also thought I was doing a bit part, to be honest, in Gangs of Wasseypur.
But Gangs of
Because it's like, no, but see, today...
No, I know you're doing
Listen,
a bit
listen,
part.
hear me out, guys. You're not listening. Nobody's letting me talk.
But you were
You
fantastic.
men are not letting me talk.
No, but you were अरे praise कर रहे हैं, तारीफ कर रहे हैं. You were terrific in that.
No, thank you. But I'm saying in hindsight, you have to
No, I'm not
understand.
saying that you didn't have a small part or big part. I'm saying you were fantastic.
No, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I feel like in hindsight, of course, like it's a great film and it's a film I'm very proud of. I just lucked out, I think. I just came with my bag to Bombay from Delhi, and I was just going from one studio to the other, auditioning like any other struggler would, till I did an ad, and that's how I met Anurag, and then he offered me Gangs of Wasseypur. That's the story. So I thought he's making a 2-part. At that time, he was making a 3-part film with 400 actors. Everyone's a newcomer. Our biggest star was Manoj Bajpayee. So I didn't know what was happening. I had come to Mumbai with the mindset, okay, I want to do one film because I wanted to. I was doing theatre and I was like, okay, I just want to be part of one film and see myself on screen just to prove to my dad or myself that I can actually do it because I was the only one again. Didn't come from a literary background, business family. There was no actor, nobody to be like, that was sort of like a reference point for me. So I was just alone trying to do that. So I didn't know how the film was going to pan out. Like I didn't even know I was the lead of the film because we were all treated the same way. Nobody told me I was going to get launched. When I saw my hoarding first time at this Bandra Bandh area with Nawaz, I was like, what? Because I knew they took some pictures, but I didn't know because you know what I mean? I didn't have a staff, I didn't have a team, I didn't get styled for that film. I was like, I'm the lead of the film. They paid me, if I tell you how much they paid me, you'll laugh. It was like really, really bad. They paid me 70,000 rupees for that film. For Gangs of Wasseypur.
Yeah, so much.
That's a lot of money.
Do you remember how much you got for the first film? It's very interesting. 70,000.
$70,000, 2012 exploitation.
2,500.
2,500.
Yeah. Yeah, 2,500. And for my first appearance, I got 250 rupees for my first appearance on Doordarshan. Then I got 2,500 for the Rashri film, which I did Ek Baar Ka. So 2,500, 4,000, 5,000, I see.
So 7,000.
My first job in Bombay before that was an ad. Amit Sharma, the director, he directed. I was acting with Abhishek Bachchan, my first ad ever for a mobile. And I'm sure they had very big budgets, but because I was like a newbie and like I just want to land a job, paid me 5 grand for it.
5 grand? Yeah.
5 grand. I still till date tell Amit Sharma, तुम गरीब बच्चों के पैसे खाते हो. And then I kept calling, saying, मुझे मेरा check दे दो. They like, हाँ अगले हफ्ते. So I said, sir, I will give you 10,000 rupees. I just want that check because this is my first kamai.
This is a story for a lot of actors who come from the outside in India. So it just, I'm always a little bit envious of that innocence because I was just some kid in the US. I saved up money on my credit card and I kind of borrowed money from friends and put together my first film. So, I was paying for my
No, but I'll tell you what.
Oh, you're missing money back. See, I have a story. I found a producer financer.
So I was like, no, it was literally, I'd borrowed $20,000 from my parents and maxed out my credit cards and went to friends like, thoda paise de do yaar, and $100,000 made a film together.
Yeah.
It was a film called Karma, it's on Hotstar. And, it has every mistake possible in it.
Nice.
Like this awkward, like,
What fun.
And in this era, obviously, all the glaring mistakes are there for you to watch.
Forever, for posterity. You can watch us forever. And
everyone
ever
cares,
and ever.
everyone notices.
Yep.
So then what happened?
Then what happened after I did the film? So I mean, like I said, I was just doing. I mean, I didn't know what the fate of Gangs of Wasseypur was going to be. Of course, it got selected at Cannes. It got the acclaim. It got the box office success. So now, of course, like if it's taken 10 years. I mean, in 2012, that film released. For me to now finally land a Maharani, or for me now to finally land a Monica, and it's not been an easy journey. It's been. I feel at every step of the way I've had to constantly prove myself that, no, I deserve the fact that I can actually lead films on my own. And there's a big responsibility.
Correct.
But it's taken a long time coming, the way I look at it. Do I want to do these big films on me that are mounted when I'm doing the slow-mo walk and the heroic stuff? Absolutely. But, it's not a fair playing field, and I think the fact of the matter is that if I'm to say suppose do an action film and another male actor who's at the same level or the same number of films or the box office success that I've had, because I've also had my share of successful films, both to mount a film, he would possibly get a bigger budget to do those things.
Yeah.
So it's just a pure question sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but see, it exists and one has to call it out constantly. It doesn't mean that I'm upset or sad or I'm going to give it up or whatever. But in fact, I think it motivates me to work harder.
Yeah.
But it's not just a question of our industry. I think it's just how the world functions in general.
Sure.
So I am not going to cry about it or flay my hands about it. I'm just going to get up and just work harder, and that's the only response one has whenever you feel there's something that you want to happen.
But that's why I said, but your characters do have that quality in them a little bit. In that grassroots level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I am
Just
so
your
very
CM.
fortunate. I get to work with directors like Vasan Bala, with Sriram Raghavan, with Anurag Kashyap. You know, honestly, for a kid who came from nowhere, I've actually I've worked with some of the best directors in the world. And
Absolutely.
you know, I remember this really low time I had in my career, and I was like, you know, this is not working out. I want to maybe try and go meet some people in the US. And I landed Leila, or I landed the Zack Snyder. It's a small part, but for me, it was like a big, at that point in time when you're not having a good phase in your career, then even an opportunity like that, I guess, gives you confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so coincidental that Army of the Dead and Maharani came out the same year, and everyone was just talking about Maharani, like a show which, I mean, again, like nobody believed in, and it was just like an outlier again. So I think, I mean, for me at least, the learning from all these experiences has been that I have to try and do those parts that nobody else will do.
Yeah.
You know, I think I have to be that actor. I mean, I shouldn't try and like fit myself into any mold, because I don't know, I just, maybe I'm not meant for those things.
People always say, and people who do comedy very well say that comedy is the most difficult genre. You've had some epic comedic roles. मतलब आपके ऐसे कुछ characters हैं जो people watch in the road and they'll be like, oh, you know, I know dialogues of that. I want to know what has been your one role, comedic role, that you truly love, and why?
I think it's the people I work with.
Okay.
For me, that's very important, and the journey has to be good. I can talk about my journeys, you know, which have been my happy journeys doing those comedic roles, where good atmosphere on the set also makes a lot of difference. The co-stars you're working with, you know, from Wo Saat Din was my first film where a lot of comedy scenes were there with Padmini and Masha Raju, and Bapu Saab was terrific in comedy because he is the one who really introduced me to Buster Keaton and Marx Brothers and all the great. So I saw a lot of. I used to always watch Lauren Hardy and Charlie Chaplin, but there were such great comedians which I was not exposed to. Then he exposed me to those great you know, comic characters and comic actors who were very poker but still very, very funny. A few comic scenes which are there in Mashal and in Mr. India, of course, the, you know, 60-70% was, you know, the cockroach scene, and you know, there's so many funny scenes. And then I was very lucky. K. Vishwanath I did. Ishwar was, I play a mentally challenged, you know, but there were a lot of funny scenes in that film, you know. So I'm very fortunate that I worked with great filmmakers who had a certain understanding of what comedy is. The earlier comic films, that famous mirror scene actually was done by Dilip Kumar, which was done again by Amitabh Bachchan and Amar Anthony. But actually it's from Kohinoor. The scene is from Kohinoor, which was done, and it was completely replicated in Amar Anthony. Amitabh did a phenomenal job, but you have to see that the inspiration is from Kohinoor. So I have been an encyclopedia of old Hindi films and international films of these comic actors. So they kind of made a foundation, and after that then I used that experience from the director, what I learned, the comic timing, being poker, and doing more situations. Then I worked with Rishikesh Mukherjee. So I had an opportunity to work with Rishikesh Mukherjee. I had an opportunity to work with Basu Chatterjee, you know. So Chameli Ki Shaadi. So, you know, which was, there was nothing, we're not doing comedy, we're just being ourselves, but just doing the character and just being very normal and speaking the lines, because that's what he thought. नहीं normally बोलो, comedy करने का जरूरत नहीं है.
I love it.
You know, I said, and then Rishida was a kind of a director who would say, नहीं ये तुम्हारा shot हो गया, वो back से था ना, अभी front में करने की जरूरत नहीं है. He was so clear in his edit that I didn't have to do the whole shot. नहीं इतना ही दो लाइन ही बोलो, पीछे से तुम्हारा वो उस पे जाने वाला है. So, you know, that was the clarity these filmmakers had. So I was very fortunate in the later years. Then I did a lot of films with, and I'm still doing, with Anis Bazmi.
Correct, of course.
Who's a phenomenal writer himself. Where I did No Entry, Welcome, you know.
Yeah.
And then of course now I did Juk Juk Jio, where I had some real good comic scenes. Raj Mehta has got a good flair. Priyadarshan has got a good flair for comic. जैसे एक्टर का होता है ना, डायरेक्टर का भी होता है.
बिल्कुल.
डायरेक्टर में भी इसको या तो वो कॉमेडी सीन कर सकता है, या एडिटर एडिट कर सकता है, या एक्टर कर सकता है. वो आप सिखा नहीं सकते उसको. You can't teach anybody comedy. तो क्या होता है, सीरियस में, ड्रामेटिक में थोड़ा ये होता है, लो एंगल लगाओ, थोड़ा लाल पीला लाइट डालो, आँख में आंसू डालो, वो फिर भी हो सकता है. कॉमेडी में is that either you have it or you don't have it. You know, it's that the God-given face and that timing of the lines and that the taal, you know, correct time पे वो dialogue बोलना, correct time पे just be poker, correct time पे not react, correct time give the reactions which are very seriously thought about.
Yeah.
And then you give those kind of reactions but there's a lot of you have to think a lot to give, so it becomes quite a serious situation, a business. Sometimes I try to create a discipline on the set, you know, trying to create a certain kind of you know, people sometimes you need a certain kind of concentration, so everybody is the noise pollution over here is quite a bit. So sometimes you need that concentration. So being in a way, spending so much of time in this business, so I am slightly, whenever I go on a set, there are times when I meet someone, I said, you know, like, I'm working with you for the first time. I said, yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoy working with you. I said, thank you. I said, my father worked with you, you know. And you know, my grandfather now is gone and living in the village, but he has also worked with you. So, you know, working with, you know, so to a certain extent, sometimes I do try to create that. So I sometimes more for effect, so that everybody gets little serious about what's happening.
And leaves you alone, most importantly. Sometimes it's like so much chatter around, you just don't want it. Like,
And
इतना loud में इतने जोर से action और करने का ये silence है, why? Sometimes you have to shout sometimes because they don't understand.
can you sort of choose a role or a character that you've done in your till now that you would say is that I couldn't sort of get that experience again?
I think Kshanam, my sort of breakout film.
Why would you say that?
It was remade in Hindi as Bagi 2.
Correct.
Which happens to be a huge success here too. But I think it was because of the limitations we had. We made that film in 1 crore. You know, I remember we're shooting outside Allu Arjun's house, and Allu Arjun is like, bro, what are you doing here? Like, I'm like, yeah, we didn't have permission, so we're just shooting a fight scene in front of your house. I figured you wouldn't like report me to the cops.
Wow.
So a lot of innocence attached. It was one of those situations where I remember this production executive once came to me and said, your ADs are having too many rotis, you know, make sure you talk to them. So it was like very, very tight. You know, we were very careful about when we would have the trolley for the film. We only had trolley for 2 days for the film. So it was just one of those very, very indie things, and then it just broke out. It was massive, and I don't think I've ever been that innocent after that. That was that first polished work that just it hit, and it's still considered by a lot of my fans as my best film.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you so much, first of all, for being part of this. And once again, I am an avid admirer of all of your work. And I hope that you continue doing films like this and keep entertaining us. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Shesh's birthday.
Oh,
So
happy
I just want to do
birthday.
a small cake cutting with
please,
you,
please,
if you
please.
don't mind.
Why should we
Just
mind?
a little bit.
Cutting
You've
is
flown,
always-
I know.
This is our childhood aspiration. Nobody has enjoyed, you know. Others
Cake
or someone,
cutting.
you cutting your
Can
own
we get the
cake.
cake, please?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Fish. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much for watching our Zoom Speakeasy panel discussion of 2022, where we celebrated the best films of 2022, the finest actors and performances that you have loved. And I hope that you keep watching Zoom. This is the end of 2022. So very happy New Year, and I hope you have a great year ahead. This is me, Rudwani, signing off.